I discovered that my brother had gotten our neighbor pregnant, and then he attempted to destroy my life by pinning the blame on me. I believed I knew everything about my family, but nothing could have braced me for the shocking revelation that awaited. We were a tight-knit household, my brother, my parents, and I, living a seemingly ordinary life with familiar routines. My brother Ethan was the family favorite. Adored by all, he seemed incapable of making mistakes. In his mid-20s, he was always the center of attention, with a magnetic charm that drew people to him effortlessly. I trusted him completely, until one summer when everything started to fall apart. Our neighbor, Emily, had been a constant presence in our lives since childhood. She was always there, part of our everyday world. But over recent months, I noticed Ethan and Emily spending more time together. At first, it seemed innocent, brief conversations by the fence or a wave from across the road, but soon, something felt wrong. I couldn't quite pinpoint it, but an uneasy feeling settled in my gut. The strain between Ethan and me had been growing for weeks, but I was unprepared for how serious it would become until one devastating night when the truth came crashing down. It all revolved around Emily. She was always an enigma, kind but guarded, a reliable neighbor who'd help whenever we needed her. I never gave her much thought, just another familiar face in the neighborhood. That changed when I started noticing odd interactions between her and Ethan. Initially, I brushed it off. Ethan and Emily would exchange pleasantries when they crossed paths. Neighbors chat, don't they? But the atmosphere shifted. Every time I passed Emily's house, I'd see Ethan lingering a little too long, chuckling too heartily at things that weren't even amusing. At first, it didn't seem suspicious, but then things took a darker turn. One day, I returned from a short weekend getaway to find Ethan acting strangely, distant, preoccupied, and avoiding me. His usual lively demeanor was gone, replaced by an unsettling quietness. He mentioned that Emily had stopped by earlier to borrow some tools, and she'd left abruptly. I was curious but didn't dwell on it. That night, however, I saw something that turned my world upside down. I was heading to the kitchen for a late-night bite when I spotted Ethan and Emily talking in her driveway. They stood close, too close, and their discussion was intense. Hidden behind a bush, I could barely hear their words, but one sentence rang out like an alarm in the silence. "I'm expecting, Ethan, and it's yours," Emily said. My body went numb, my pulse racing. I'd overheard enough to know something catastrophic was unfolding right in front of me. My first impulse was to storm over and demand answers, but I was frozen, unsure how to react. My thoughts were in turmoil. How could this be? How could Ethan, my own brother, be caught up in something like this? The next day, I knew I had to confront him. I couldn't ignore what I'd heard. I waited for him to return home, and when he walked in, I didn't hold back. "Ethan, what's happening between you and Emily?" I asked. His face drained of color as I recounted what I'd overheard. For a moment, he was speechless. Then, with a trembling voice, he confessed to the affair. I was devastated. But what came next was even more painful. Instead of owning up to his actions, Ethan tried to twist the narrative. "This is your fault," he barked. "You've been so distant lately. You've been shutting me out, so I found someone who understands me." I was stunned. My brother, the one I'd always admired, was trying to make me responsible for his betrayal. The shock was overwhelming, but I refused to let him manipulate me. It was clear he'd not only betrayed me, but was now trying to sabotage my life by deflecting the blame. The situation spiraled further after Ethan's confession, and chaos ensued. Emily's pregnancy was no longer a secret, and the consequences of their actions were unavoidable. What had seemed like a private matter between my brother and our neighbor quickly became a full-blown family crisis. Word spread rapidly, and soon everyone in our community knew the truth. The weight of it was crushing, and I felt like my life was unraveling. Ethan's behavior grew increasingly erratic. Instead of showing regret or trying to make amends, he doubled down on his justifications, insisting he was a victim of circumstance. He refused to take accountability and seemed more focused on dodging blame than addressing the damage. His anger was aimed at me, as if I were the cause of his troubles. The atmosphere at home became unbearable, and I tiptoed around Ethan, never knowing when his next outburst would strike. What hurt most was how he dragged me into his mess, making it seem like I was responsible for cleaning up his disaster. He insisted I had to fix everything, even though I had no part in creating.